Welcome to This Side of 50 with your host, me, Milton K. Smith. Well, thank you all for joining once again. It's a new week, and this is This Side of 50 with Milton, which is me. I thank you all for joining. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you who have subscribed to the podcast so far. Thank you so much. If you do me a favor, though, share that with some of your friends. Let them know that you like the podcast. I see you subscribing. Also, you can drop me a line. Let me know your feedback. I've been hearing that there's been, with a few of the episodes, some issues with the volume, maybe not being as loud as it can be. So let me know. We're trying to adjust it. You know, we're new to all of this. So we're trying to adjust the volume and make sure the editing and the final cut on everything is good, of good quality. So feel free, go to my Facebook page, This Side of 50. You can leave a message there, or you can inbox me, or you can email me at mks@miltonksmith.org with your feedback. You know, even include maybe some of the topics you'd like for me to give my commentary on, see my point of view. So, once again, thank you all for joining. And today, we're going to jump out on something that's been on my mind. I was reading this book, or started reading this book, by Jemar Tisby, and it's called The Color of Compromise, The Truth About the American Church's Complicity in Racism. So I'm not going to go into any review of that particular book. I think you should take an opportunity, if you like to read, go to Amazon or go to your bookstore, bookseller. It's called The Color of Compromise by Jemar Tisby. I think you'll find that to be some interesting reading. However, the reason I brought that up or mentioned that book, because this week, what popped into my head as I was going throughout the week is not so much the color of compromise as it relates to the church, but the colors of compromise as it relates to our culture and our society. So I'm going to just say a few of my thoughts. You feel free to share your thoughts with me or continue this discussion with your friends and your followers on your Facebook page or your social media program. So, or your social media platform rather, or your social media program if you have one. That's easy now. Everybody just about has one. Even this guy named Milton, he has one. So anyway, I started thinking about what are the colors of compromise, and I came up with all these colors, right? Red, blue, black, white, brown, green. The colors of compromise. So let me just give you an idea. I kind of jump around from topic to topic in my head, as you probably have figured out now. But I usually get them all out at the end, so that you can get an understanding of what I'm talking about. So I was thinking. So I was watching the Grammys last Sunday, I think that was the Grammys. Yeah, and I really I didn't care too much for the hosting that was done. I thought it was kind of corny or whatever the case may be. But I did watch some of the performances. I thought some of the performances, Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak, I thought those were pretty good performances. And I saw a few others, that came out. And of course, we saw the performance by, Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion. And I started thinking, because I saw some reviews and comments how that was a great performance, and they did their rendition of WAP. They edited some of it out, but pretty much the dancing and the choreography was pretty much said it all, right? And I thought it was really interesting that we were okay, or people were okay with that being seen on public TV during what I would call prime time, because now children stay up all times of day. No one really puts their child in bed early, and we pretty much allow our children to watch whatever they want to for the most part. And seemingly that's considered to be a great work of art, a great presentation. However, we're having a problem with Dr. Seuss and Pepe Le Pew. And I was like, wow, that seems so oxymoronic to me, that a little skunk who was at the minimum was overly aggressive toward female cats and things like that we as kids, I don't think that suggested to any of us to be womanizer or anything. I think we just saw it as good-hearted fun, and thought it was humorous and never had any thought to it. That's being quote unquote canceled. Dr. Seuss and his books, a lot of the books that were written are being canceled, but we can applaud the performance that we saw at the Grammys. I'm not saying that the performance was good or bad. I'm just saying how is one a great work of art, and the other two possibly are so derogatory and they're so suggestive as to how people may treat others. I think that's very interesting. And what came up with me is the colors of compromise. What is the color of that compromise? I'm going to say that perhaps the color of that compromise is green. Maybe because the performance we saw on the Grammys is making a lot of money, and Pepe Le Pew and Dr. Seuss may not be making that kind of money. Could that be what it is? Or perhaps we are okay with the suggestive nature of sex and all the things that go with that, because at the end of the day, we all have to agree that, especially when it comes to media, radio, television, sex sells. It sells. It's sex sales. Yeah, I think I said it right. Sex sales. Yeah. And so could it be that the money that's involved, we're okay with compromising our, I don't know, our respect, our values with that. But however, since Pepe Le Pew probably doesn't make as much money as the latest rap album out there, that we have a problem with that. So what are the colors of compromise? Is that color of compromise really green? Do we compromise, or do you feel that a lot of what you're seeing on social media, on TV, hearing on the radio is being allowed simply because it makes money? Wow. Have we compromised our values? Do you compromise your values? Is radio and entertainment industry, music industry, film industry, are they compromising our values or dishonoring our values as a people for the color of green? I wonder, the color of green, is that a color of compromise? I'm going to say yes, it is a color of compromise. That when it comes to money, people will sometimes disregard their values, sometimes accept some things that shouldn't be quite accepted simply because of the money that it's going to make. I've found out, or I'm beginning to learn, that not only does art imitate life, art actually dictates life. I think music has become very subjective in that what we hear and what we see has a great influence on how we behave. I think, you tell me what you think, or you ask yourself, I believe that what we're seeing now, as far as what's on TV for the most part, what we're hearing on the radio for the most part, is strategically designed to subliminally cause us to act in a certain way, especially if you feed yourself that type of music, that type of art form over and over again on a repetitive basis, when now it becomes a subconscious routine for you, or subconscious thought for you. And you begin to act and behave according to the art forms that are being presented to you or presented to us on a daily basis. And not just in secular music, I think also in Christian music, that there's a set standard, be it good or bad, that is more so based on the money that it makes than the positive impact that it may make. That's a thought, right? Because especially in church, we're quick to label everything as God and spreading the gospel, when really sometimes it's not about God or spreading the gospel as far as the main point. The main point is how much money will it make, and does it have that sound or that flavor that's going to be lucrative to the music industry. So the color of compromise. I think one of the colors of compromise is green. I think it's green. I really do. I think it's green. Ask yourself, would you compromise? How much green do you need to compromise your values? How much could they offer? How much could they offer you to compromise your values? It's very interesting. As I listen to documentaries on YouTube, documentaries on different stations, public radio, and platforms like that, of what goes on in certain industries, certain platforms, certain outtakes, that it's possible that what people are doing and the reason we see such lewdness in certain areas is simply not because a person believes that it's right, because they believe, hey, I'm making $1 for it and I'm not concerned about how it looks. I'm just making money. That color of green. So I'm throwing out colors there. That the colors of compromise. I think green is a color of compromise. And then I think green ties into that color of compromise. I think that also may tie into another color of compromise, which is white, black, and brown. That a lot of people, a lot of times, in a lot of instances, we compromise based on color. Those are some of the issues we've seen throughout these last few years in this country, that really people will compromise what's right. They will compromise. And let me give you my definition of compromise. So there are two, right? Compromise means to come together, to mutually agree on something in order to move forward together, right? So when I say the colors of compromise, what have people mutually agreed upon together and decided to move forward on that really is not based on nothing else but a particular color, i.e., as I said before, green, right? We only agree to do this. We only agree to do this and make this album because it's going to make us some money. We're not really saying that what we're doing is right and that you should follow us, or we're not even giving a thought to how it looks to everyone else, or how it may impact the future, how it may impact our children, how it may impact the family. All we know is that it's impacting my pocketbook or my purse or my bank account positively because, hey, I'm making green from it. So that's what I mean by compromise, right? The colors. What colors cause you to mutually agree upon something or agree to do something with someone that really goes against values, goes against morals, goes against, I'll say, good common virtues, right? Whatever happened to virtues? No, everybody does everything, or everybody feels like they can do everything, say anything, do anything, and nobody should have a problem with it. And although we holler about having freedom of speech, freedom of this, freedom of that, you don't have freedom, I believe, to negatively impact others. And you do have to be accountable for what you say and what you do. Now, of course, I have the freedom not to be subjected to what you say and what you do. But everybody, I think, has some inherent responsibilities toward each other. Follow peace with all men. That's what the Bible says. Follow peace with all men. Everyone has a right to live a stress-free or a happy life. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? That everyone has those rights, the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we have to be cognizant of that. So when it comes to those other three colors that I mentioned of compromise, white, brown, and black, I believe that a lot of times we compromise because of colors, that we know certain things are not right, how a certain group treats another certain group or another ethnicity. But because we belong to this ethnicity, we kind of compromise and we say it's okay, it's all right, I'm not going to do anything about it because I support my people no matter what. Well, I think you should support right no matter what. I think you should support doing the right thing no matter what, not just because the person looks like you or shares the same ethnic color as you do, right? I often think, we see the signs, Blue Lives Matter, and then that's in opposition most times to seeing Black Lives Matter, and then we'll see signs that say All Lives Matter. And I think if all that's true, then the people that have Blue Lives Matter should have no problem with a sign that says Black Lives Matter or with a sign that says All Lives Matter, right? Because when we make those statements, we're not really trying to be inclusive. We're trying to counteract what someone else is saying, right? Without even fully understanding the thought or the reason behind the statement. I think that in my culture, in my ethnicity, my ethnic group, we say, Black Lives Matter. But I also believe that Black lives have to matter to Black people as well. that if just like we don't want other races just senselessly killing our people, we should not want our own people to senselessly kill our brothers and sisters. And if Black lives really matter, they have to matter to us, right? I do believe all lives matter. And I think anyone listening to me, you do believe all lives matter. But if all lives really matter, then all lives have to be treated the same, with the same level of equality and the same level of equity. If we say all lives matter, right? Yeah, so what is the color of that compromise? Is it blue? Is it black? Is it white? Is it brown? And we say that everyone has equal access to everything. And although we may have equality, the problem is not equality. The problem is equity. If everybody has the same level of ground to play with, but you've been given a faster car than me, then it's not, although we both have a car, but you have a Maserati and I have a Volkswagen. We both have a car, but it's not. There's no equity between the two. A Maserati is not in the same class as a Volkswagen, and that's what happens a lot in society and in culture now. We settle on, well, you have what I have, but I don't have the same level or the same quality of what you have. And if I don't have the same quality of what you have, then really I may have something that's like yours, but it's really not equal or equitable to yours. And that color of compromise comes into play there, because a lot of times certain ethnicities, especially in the African American culture, we don't have the same equitable resources that other ethnicities have. In a lot of instances, not every, but in a lot of instances. And if all lives are going to matter, then there cannot be a color of compromise with any life, with any group. So, well, we got another color of compromise. So we got green, right? That we say that money causes us, that color green. The OJ says money, 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 right? People do some mean things for it, right? That color of compromise being green. And then we have the race colors, right? White, brown, black, tan, whatever, orange, whatever you want to call it, right? Red, I don't know. Whatever colors that you want to associate with people based on how you see it, right? I don't know. But it shouldn't cause you to compromise what's right. Shouldn't cause you to compromise what's true and what's has moral validity, moral veracity. Why do we compromise, right? And back to the book that I mentioned earlier by Jemar Tisby, The Color of Compromise. It deals with the color of compromise when it comes to being a Christian and Christian ethics in the church amongst Christian congregations that should be of the same mindset, of the same hopes and the same dreams. And we find out that there's a lot of compromising going on amongst churches based on money and race. Wow, money and race. Who would imagine that the church, which was supposed to be the house of God, built on the fundamentals of Christ and Christ's teachings, would be one of the biggest, I can't think of the word. Give me a word, somebody. Throw it out there so I can hear it. Perpetrators. Thank you. Whoever said that. Thank you. One of the biggest perpetrators of compromise in some instances when it comes to the color green and the color black and the color white and the color brown or the color tan, that the Christian organization, a house of God, would be guilty of color compromising. Isn't that something? Then I thought of another one. Here's two more. Red and blue. You know that what that is. That's our political system. We have the red and the blue, right? The red being conservative, the right wing, and the left being liberal. The blue, the Democrats, right? Liberal. They're so far left, the left group, and the red being the right group. Compromise, and people will actually compromise what's right and what's true based on a political color. That's baffling to me. And I don't understand how we've gotten to this point in this culture where we allow colors to divide us. We allow colors to dictate how we act, how we behave. We allow colors to become the determining factor in the things that we do. Maybe some of you that are listening to this podcast, what colors cause you to compromise? Do you make decisions based on the colors that are out there that society has, or that certain institutions have found that if we can have people become loyal to a particular color, that we can dictate how they think, how they vote, how they react to other people, not based on truth a lot of times, just based on I'm loyal to this color, and all I can see is that this color is right. Even when it's obvious that this color is wrong, I have determined in my mind that this color is right, and I find all the ways that I can to justify the rightness of this color. How do we do that? How do we move from that point? I guess. How do we start to not see colors anymore and not compromise based on colors? How do we do that? There has to be a solution. There has to be a plan or a strategy. Whereas, as Martin Luther King said, that we judge people and judge things by its character and not by the color of the skin of it, right? By the character and the content that that thing or that person or that institution that it has, and not by the color that it represents or the color that that it uses as its banner. So I've really been struggling with the colors of compromise, starting with the Grammys, because I saw that. And let me say this: I have no positive or negative opinion about the performances that I saw. I just have questions as how we can allow and support one and then want to cancel another, right? I think we're making too big of a deal about certain things, that people are thinking too deep, thinking too hard. Maybe they have nothing else left to do. Maybe this is their niche, their niche in life, that they want to make a name for themselves or feel like they've done something to change the world. And I don't know if it's really helping or hurting the world. We cannot get to a point where we find an offense in everything that happens, that if it's not said exactly how we think it should be said, then we have a problem with it. Now, I know there are some things that are obvious, and I think as we all are growing and learning, it comes to bear that, we must enlighten others. We must enlighten our own selves and learn what things are offensive inherently to others, and then not try to intentionally offend others when we find legitimate offense, right? Legitimate offense. But also, we cannot nitpick and be waiting and subject every word, every thought, every piece of art, every work, performing arts, every piece of literature, looking for, this is what they intended to say. This is what they were trying to say. I think a lot of times it's not the perhaps it wasn't the cartoon. Maybe it was your own thoughts that were troubling you, that all you can see is negativity and everything. Maybe it's not what the writer or the creator intended. Maybe it's how you view it. And maybe we need to change the window that we're looking through and stop. And maybe that window is kind of dirty, or it's been glazed over or glossed over with an offense. And now, no matter what it is, we find offense in it. We find a problem with it. We find a reason to say that it had some negative meaning that no one saw but you. And now you've highlighted it and magnified it. And now you've created this system of, well, I can see that, and you're probably right. But I don't think it's equitable across the line, because I could rightfully say that I find some performances offensive. I find a lot of the music. And here's something else. This just dropped back in my mind. I find that we have a color compromise when it comes to the effeminization of our men, especially our black men. That we tend to gravitate toward works of art that pictures our black men in an effeminate way, that there are very few strong black men in media and entertainment that are being highlighted, that we are quick to, I don't know how to even say this, we're quick to laugh and support when our men are seen as being weak, or when they're being seen as not being strong and positive. We only see now the majority of our men are rough looking, like they're on the way to jail. They don't have any good morals, good values, and a lot of things. Not everything, but a lot of performances and a lot of TV shows and movies. We struggle to find strong black men. Y'all remember James Evans from Good Times? Strong black man, right? Right? You know, George Jefferson, although he dealt with some things, strong black man. I was thinking the other day, you all remember All in the Family? That show would not have lasted past 2 episodes in today's culture, because Archie Bunker probably would have offended everybody within the first 15 minutes of the 30-minute show, right? Or the show back, Alice, Mel's Diner, all those shows, One Day at a Time, the Jeffersons, Good Times. In today's culture, I don't think those shows would have, if they would have been aired at all, would have made it past the first 1 or 2 episodes. We're not even going to talk about shows like Chico and the Man and Sanford and Son. Those shows, at the end of the day, probably had more offensive language than Pepe Le Pew could ever have. But the colors of compromise have changed. Back then, there was no problem. And this was weird, because back then, although that was right on the heels of the civil rights movement and the change that were coming for voting rights and the work that was being done by Dr. Martin Luther King, that was right on the heels of that. And we had more freedom to express without people becoming offended than what we do now, and who we are some 40, 50 years, 60 years later, 70 years later, right? And now it's like, wow, things have, I don't know if we've even gone forward or if we're headed backwards. Whereas you have to think 15 minutes before you say anything, because you don't want to offend anybody, and nobody can take anything. Everything is directed toward them. But when something really is offensive, when something really is lewd, and something really is negative or detrimental to our future and to our people, we seem to applaud that, and we actually accept that. A lot of what we see in the music industry, once again, is detrimental to our future. Interesting. And I know you'll say, hey, a lot of what we see in church is detrimental. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think there's this compromise that's going on, that we allow certain things and we don't allow other things. We want to cancel, pick and choose what we want to cancel, and then allow what we want to allow based on how we like it. I think we've gotten to the point that people just want to do and say what they want to say, but you're not supposed to say anything back. And while I'm talking about it, yes, it's be a little bit, I'm going over my little 26 minutes that I try to keep in my mind. I believe that with the issue with a certain music entertainer or whatever, and what happened between him and his son, that you can, or that you shouldn't, as much as possible, curse at your children or use profanity towards your children, no matter how old they are. You shouldn't use profanity toward people in general. But I also believe that a lot of times that we get involved in things that have nothing to do with us and really don't have anything to do with how you raise your children. You don't have to agree with how I talk to people in my family, but also you don't have to have an opinion just because you've been presented the information. So I've learned to mind, sometimes, I saw this on a shirt, I learned to mind the business that pays me and not work overtime on somebody else's business. That was my thought about that. You probably thought I was going to say something really deep, didn't you? No, I'm not, didn't. I'm over it. You should be over it too, right? What is your colors of compromise? That's the question. And when are we going to stop allowing colors to compromise us? Is your color green? Is it red? Is it blue? Is it black? Is it white? Is it brown? What is your color of compromise? once again, I just wanted to have you think about something and to get this off of my mind and maybe talk a little bit longer than 26 minutes this time on this podcast. This is This Side of 50. I'm Milton K. Smith. Hey, there's another episode next week. Give me your feedback. You get the information on the outro. I'll talk to you later. Bye. You have been listening to This Side of 50 with Milton K. Smith. Email me your comments, your questions, your thoughts, mks@miltonksmith.org. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll talk with you next time.